The federal court forced the FDA to retract tweets and statements for its years-long smear campaign against ivermectin as an effective treatment for COVID-19. It seems that the goal of Big Pharma is to get people hooked on for life on their products, whether it be an annual flu or COVID-19 vaccines, perpetual statins or lower cholesterol, beta blockers for high blood pressure, expensive never-ending cancer treatments. Yet all this intervention doesn't seem to yield much fruit.
Arizona Representative Paul Gosar is by far one of the biggest hypocrites in Congress, posturing as an anti-big business crusader whenever it benefits him, yet curiously showing his real colors whenever his donors are involved.
H.R. 2925 would resolve harmful permitting uncertainty and litigation delays caused by a harmful 2019 rogue court decision known as the Rosemont decision. This decision revoked a previously approved mine plan to my great state of Arizona, ignoring 40 years of federal permitting and land management regulations. The uncertainty caused by Rosemont threatens to add years of delays to an already overburdened 30-year proposed mining projects for 30 years on federal lands in the United States. Congress should act to remedy the fallout created by Rosemont and must work to expedite mine permitting and build up domestic mineral supply chains.
On its face, Gosar's argument seems to be relatively moderate given his history. But once you dig just a little bit deeper, the sinister motives come out. H.R. 2925, the resolution he's arguing for now, allows mining companies to use, occupy, and conduct infrastructure operations on public land, regardless of whether or not useful minerals are found on that land. So in short, this bill would give private mining businesses even more and make it easier for them to access publicly owned land. You know, in that same vein, the Rosemont decision Gosar mentioned actually denied the construction of a multi-billion-dollar open pit copper mining plant in the Coronado National Forest just outside of Tucson, ruling that the U.S. Forest Service illegally approved of the mine's construction because no valuable minerals were found on site. Now, the mine also would have covered around 4,000 acres of publicly owned land with the dumping of toxic waste and the mine's infrastructure. Gosar would have loved to campaign on and take credit for this project. So it's no wonder he's still holding a grudge 5 years later, especially since he's acting on his donors' behalf.
Madam Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support this bipartisan bill that would provide much needed certainty for domestic mining projects.
We have heard repeatedly from across the aisle that mining pollution is a thing of the past, that today's modern mining industry operates under the highest environmental standards, and that after the mining operations stop, the industry cleans up after itself. If that sounds too good to be true, it's because it is.
California Representative Katie Porter is about to take Gosar and his mining buddies to school.
Our current regulations require companies to post financial assurances to cover the cost of cleanup after their mining operations stop. But it is not enough. Dangerous pollution still happens far too often. Depending on the mine type and location, between 74 and 82% of modern-day mines are polluting beyond what their permits allow. And the kicker? Taxpayers pay domestic and foreign mining companies for their subsidies and often the entire cost of cleanup. Given the $54 billion backlog to clean up mines abandoned before our current reclamation regulations, which continue to pollute our lands, waters, and communities, the American taxpayer literally cannot afford new mining pollution.
You know, on this one, Katie Porter is brilliant. Her takedown of Gosar links unregulated private business to skirting the law and not holding up their end of the bargain with pollution and following the environmental safeguards in place. I mean, haven't we learned anything about private businesses? Each and every time they'll take a mile when given an inch by the government. They'll do anything in their power to skirt regulations in order to increase profits. And remember, that's how our country was designed. It hasn't been about you, the people, in a long time, unless you count taking from all of us to enrich a few.
That's why I filed an amendment to this bill to improve bonding requirements and make mining companies keep up with the new mining rush that this bill would enable. This is a common sense amendment. If we're going to allow a toxic mining free-for-all, we should at least make sure that taxpayers are not footing the bill. After all, this bill opens up our lands to our foreign adversaries, and I don't expect them to clean up after themselves out of the goodness of their hearts. So my amendment would make sure operators post financial assurances to fully cover reclamation of all mining activities. It would correct for inconsistencies in both BLM and Forest Service regulations and codify those corrections into law. And it would have made sure these financial assurances were real money, like surety bonds, irrevocable letters of credit, certificates of deposit, or cash, not insurance policies that lapse if the mining company goes bankrupt. It is time we hold industry accountable and make sure they cannot pass on the costs of cleaning up after themselves, the costs of their earning profits, onto the American people. But guess what? The Republican majority refused to even consider my amendment. They blocked it from getting a debate on the House floor and even from getting a simple up or down vote. It's outrageous, and it paints a dark picture of the House Republicans' priorities: polluters over people, and China over the American taxpayer.
Porter's proposed amendment is reasonable and it's measured. It could and probably should go even further, giving more protections to public lands like national parks, forests, etc. But the Republicans want nothing to do with it because it would eat into their profits and the profits of their shareholders. They would have to admit that mining negatively affects the environment. Now, as an even bigger indictment of Gosar.
Unfortunately, the Bureau of Land Management continues to sidestep congressional authority and has finalized a new rule to further restrict federal lands for multiple use, including outdoor recreation, ranching, mineral development, and energy production. Since his first day in office, Joe Biden has abused his authority to add large swaths of acreage to the federal estate while ignoring the concerns of local communities and stakeholders. Even to the point that last year they were caught trying to amateurize our public lands on the New York Stock Exchange. Arizonans don't want another rule that blocks access to public lands. This new rule represents the latest rush to lock the gates on federal lands by the Biden administration and directly threatens every aspect of American life.
Let's just count the money. Throughout his career, Gosar has received more than $100,000 in campaign donations from the mining industry. Money in politics is legalized bribery. Businesses, corporations, and individuals with enough power and influence can buy the policies they want to boost their bottom line, no matter the consequences to the masses. That is inherently anti-democratic. Both Democrats and Republicans abuse the system. They work for their donors more than their constituents because of the financial incentives our system permits and, yes, encourages.